There's a kind of power that doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't demand or chase or prove. It simply is. And somehow, it moves everything around it. That's the power of feminine energy, quiet, steady, unshakable. It doesn't push, it draws in. When a woman is in touch with her feminine energy, you can feel it before she says a word. The room softens. Time slows down, and the people around her begin to breathe differently. She doesn't need to convince anyone to notice her, because her presence speaks louder than her performance. There's something ancient about this kind of power, something that existed long before words were needed to explain it. It's the energy that has guided mothers, healers, creators, and lovers throughout history. The energy that builds homes, mends hearts, and shapes souls, without ever demanding credit. Feminine energy isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the ability to stay open, even when life tries to harden you. It's the choice to respond, not react, to create calm instead of chaos, to hold space when others would fill it with noise. It's knowing when to speak, and when silence carries more weight than 1,000 words ever could. It's understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Just be. Just exist. Just allow. Men feel this energy in a way they can't explain. It doesn't hit. It melts. It makes them want to protect, to understand, to move closer, not out of obligation, but instinct. It awakens something primal in them, something they didn't know they were searching for, until they felt it. Because feminine energy doesn't appeal to logic or strategy. It speaks directly to the soul. It bypasses the mind and touches something deeper, something true, something they've been longing for without realizing it. You see, the modern world praises control, independence, and certainty. But the feminine doesn't thrive in control. It thrives in connection. It's about flow, not force. She doesn't dominate the room. She influences it, not through fear, but through feeling. Not by pushing, but by allowing. Not by proving her worth, but by simply embodying it. That's what makes it so powerful, because it cannot be taken, only felt. You can't steal presence. You can't fake authenticity. You can't manufacture the kind of energy that comes from a woman who knows herself, trusts herself, and honors herself without apology. This is the energy that makes men pause. That makes them want to become better. That inspires them to rise, without ever asking them to. A woman in her feminine doesn't chase a man. She doesn't need to. Her energy already calls him in. Not because she's trying to get him, but because she's aligned with herself. And that alignment is magnetic. When she's centered in her own truth, she becomes a beacon, not because she's performing or pretending, but because she's real. And in a world full of masks and personas, realness is rare. It's irresistible. It cuts through all the noise and reaches straight to the heart. When she listens, she really listens, not planning her next response, not thinking about what she'll say, but truly hearing, feeling, understanding, creating space for someone else to be fully seen and fully heard. When she speaks, her words carry softness and depth. They land gently, but they stay. They don't need volume to be heard. They don't need aggression to be respected. They carry weight because they come from a place of truth, not performance. When she walks, there's intention in her stillness. Even in movement, there's grace. Even in action, there's ease. Because she's not rushing to prove anything. She's simply being. And that being is enough. The feminine is not in competition with the masculine. It complements it. It gives meaning to strength. It turns action into purpose. It transforms attraction into intimacy. Where masculine energy drives forward, feminine energy deepens. Where masculine energy builds structure, feminine energy creates meaning. Where masculine energy protects, feminine energy nurtures. They are two halves of a whole, neither complete without the other. And when they dance together, magic happens. A man can feel your feminine energy in the way you breathe, in the way you receive instead of rush, in the way you let silence be comfortable. He feels it in your patience, in your presence, in the way you don't need to fill every moment with words or worry, in the way you trust the flow of life instead of trying to control every outcome, in the way you make room for him to step into his masculine without competing for space. Feminine energy doesn't mean doing less, it means being more aware, more connected, more true, more attuned to the subtle currents of emotion, intuition, and energy that most people miss, more willing to feel deeply instead of staying on the surface, more courageous in vulnerability than most people are in their armor, more present in each moment instead of constantly racing toward the next one. It's the strength to stay kind in a hard world, to stay soft when it would be easier to close, to stay open enough to love even after you've been hurt. That's not fragile. That's fearless. It takes more courage to remain tender than to become cold, more strength to forgive than to hold grudges, more power to trust again than to build walls and never let anyone in. This is the kind of courage that changes lives, that heals wounds, that breaks cycles. Every woman has this energy inside her. Every high-value woman knows this truth, that her worth was never about effort, but essence. But sometimes, it gets buried. Buried under the noise of survival, under the pressure to prove, under the fear of being misunderstood, under the demands of careers that require constant output, under the weight of expectations that tell her she must be harder, faster, stronger. Under the conditioning that says softness is weakness and vulnerability is dangerous. Under years of protecting herself in a world that didn't always feel safe. You don't have to become feminine. You already are. You just have to remember. Remember what peace feels like. Remember what it's like to receive without guilt. Remember that stillness is not the absence of power. It's the birthplace of it. Remember the girl you were, before the world told you who to be, before you learned to hide your tenderness, before you started performing instead of existing, before you believed you had to earn love, instead of simply being worthy of it. Because the most magnetic women aren't the loudest or the boldest or the most demanding. They are the ones who are centered, who move through life with quiet confidence, who listen more than they speak, who inspire action without ever asking for it. They are the women who know their value without needing constant validation, who trust their intuition without needing permission, who love themselves enough to set boundaries without apology, who understand that their power lies not in what they do, but in who they are. That's the subtle power of feminine energy. It doesn't conquer, it connects. It doesn't take, it transforms. It doesn't shout, it shifts the entire room. It changes atmospheres, it alters energy. It influences without trying. It inspires without effort. It heals without forcing. It touches lives in ways that can't be measured, but are deeply felt. And when a woman learns to trust that power, she stops chasing what isn't hers and everything meant for her, starts finding its way home. The right relationships, the right opportunities, the right energy, the right people. Because when you're aligned with your feminine essence, you become a magnet for everything that matches your frequency. You stop attracting what you think you need and start attracting what truly serves you. You stop forcing. You start flowing. You stop proving. You start being. You stop performing. You start living. You stop competing. You start creating. You stop protecting. You start trusting. And that's when everything changes. That's when you realize the power was always yours. It was never about becoming someone else. It was always about returning to yourself, to the woman you were meant to be, before the world convinced you to be anything else. Come home to yourself.